From the Opubco studios in Oklahoma City, this is an OU update. I'm Jenny Carlson. OU formally announced Lincoln Riley as their new offensive coordinator over the weekend, and Jason Kersey joins us on the phone to talk more about Riley's hire. Jason, obviously a lot to come out of there that we've gotten into, but more that is yet to come. Something that you wrote about was the quarterback situation, which I think a lot of people are interested in. What's your feeling about quarterbacks at this point after hearing from Lincoln Riley and diving into his background?
Well, I think Lincoln Riley said that they've got what they need in that room. A lot of people might scoff at that, but I think he really believes that they've got the answer on campus right now, whether that's Trevor Knight or Baker Mayfield or Cody Thomas or even Justice Hansen. The only quarterback he mentioned by name was Baker Mayfield. I think a lot of people read into that maybe Baker Mayfield has an edge, but the only thing about that is that he was asked specifically about Baker Mayfield. So I don't know if he'd have been asked specifically about Trevor Knight, he might have talked more about Trevor Knight. But Baker Mayfield certainly has a leg up in the fact that he's played in that Texas Tech, Mike Leach sort of offense before. And that, when he left Texas Tech, East Carolina wanted him really bad. So, he sort of fits, I think, into what Lincoln Riley wants to do.
Well, it's interesting when you look back at Lincoln Riley's trajectory. He's coached this air raid style, obviously, at East Carolina these last 5 years, but they've had some different looks. They've had a running back go over 1,000 yards. They've had really high-powered wide receiver quarterback combinations that have gone for over 1,000 yards. Is it possible to say what this offense is going to look like? Lincoln Riley said no, Jason, but do you have a sense of what we might see the air raid in year one in Norman look like under Lincoln Riley?
I think there's a chance that it looks a lot like what his East Carolina offenses looked like, not this last season, but the 2 seasons before when they had Ventavious Cooper at running back. He was able to go over 1,000 yards 2 straight years. And he also was a guy who could catch the ball out of the backfield. I think at OU he's going to have even more options. He's going to have Samaje Perine, who, we all know what he can do out of the backfield, but he's also potentially going to have Joe Mixon. And I think the thing that Joe Mixon does so well, we assume he did well in high school, and we assume he'll do well in college, is catch the ball out of the backfield. So he's got a couple different, and Keith Ford's shown the ability to do that too. So they might have a few more options in terms of what to do with guys out of the backfield in terms of running and receiving. So, and I think maybe some of it will have to do with the receivers coach they hire, but we'll have to wait and see who that is.
Yeah, that hire remains to be seen, as well as Bobby Jack Wright's replacement on the defense. Bob Stoops saying that's still a work in progress. Lastly, Jason, let's talk a little bit about recruiting, because Lincoln Riley was out recruiting before he was even formally introduced. We know from his Twitter feed that he's back out recruiting. What's your sense about him as a recruiter? That's one thing that I think a lot of people are curious about in terms of the type of talent he might be able to bring in.
Well, I think the fact that he's young helps. I think that helped him land some guys at East Carolina. And I think that, it's going to make him maybe a more appealing guy to some recruits at Oklahoma. Of course, Josh Heupel was pretty young too, but, Josh Heupel really recruited quarterbacks pretty well. The problem was developing them. So yeah, I think, he's, I think, a confident recruiter. Ryan Newsom is a receiver OU has been after for months. They were, right there in Ryan Newsom's final 5, I think. But Newsom recently announced that UCLA and Texas were his final 2. Took a picture with Jay Norvell wearing a Longhorns pullover yesterday, which was weird. But Lincoln Riley has apparently talked him into inviting him into his home for an in-home visit. So they're not giving up on people, and I think that right there is impressive in and of itself.
Definitely something to watch as signing day approaches. That's February 4th, by the way. We'll continue to have that coverage as it nears. Be sure to stay with the best coverage team anywhere at newsok.com and every day in the Oklahoman.